Welcome to the Copeland Coaching Podcast, where it's all about turning your job search into a slam dunk. Your host is Angela Copeland.
Welcome to the Copeland Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Copeland. On the phone with me today, I have Jennifer Garrison in Houston, Texas. Jennifer is the Director of Human Resources at Elite SEM. Elite SEM is a New York-based digital marketing agency. They have received a number of awards for their business, including Ad Age Small Agency of the Year, U.S. Search Awards Best Search Agency, Mashable #1 Best Tech Company to Work For, Crain's New York Business #1 Place to Work, Entrepreneur Best Company Culture, and Bing Independent Agency of the Year. They were also recognized by the Inc. 5000 for year over year as one of the fastest growing search engine marketing agencies in the country. Jennifer, thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I mentioned before we got started, and I didn't say it in the introduction, but years ago, I actually worked with Elite SEM when they were still pretty new. It was around like 2007 to 2011, and I was their client. And hands down, they have probably been the best digital marketing agency that I have worked with in my career. But the thing that I have been so impressed with is all the people that worked there back in 2007. I think they're all still there.
Yeah, I think all of the employees from 2007 are still with Elite today.
Yeah, it's
like 10 years later.
It's so amazing. I mean, I'm just so impressed. And, especially in the digital space, people switch jobs so frequently. And I'm kind of curious, when it comes to Elite SEM, why do you think your employees are hanging around? What do you attribute that retention to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are several factors that we could attribute to our high employee retention. One of the biggest things that I think attracts and retains employees is our founder, Ben Kirshner. When he set up Elite SEM, he wanted to flip the agency model and the way that employees are compensated. He kind of wanted to flip that on its head. And this unique compensation model truly keeps the client team as the stars of the business. He calls it a meritocracy. It really gives each employee the control over their own destiny in regards to how many clients they support, how much money they want to make, how much flexibility and autonomy they have. And so that's something that's really special and unique about Elite. It gives each employee that sense of empowerment over their schedule, and gives them a feeling that they really are their own entrepreneur within the company. That really in turn can then drive excellent client service and a good sense of satisfaction, I think. So that's one of the big things that I think sets us apart when you're looking between us and other agencies. And then from there, I think another factor that has a lot to do with the high retention is the management style of the organization. Like I mentioned, that autonomy and decision-making that's encouraged makes a huge difference in that sense of satisfaction day-to-day with your career. You feel like you have the ability to make your own decisions and that you're not being micromanaged. Mm-hmm. We strive to stay as flat as possible. So that really prevents that feeling of micromanagement from kind of creeping in, which can tend to happen, I think, in a lot of agencies. From statistics I've seen, that usually the manager ratio can be as low as 1-to-1 between a manager and how many direct reports they have. And we strive to stay between 6 and 7 employees to one manager, which is very unique within our space.
Oh, that's interesting. So I'm curious, you mentioned that someone has a chance to have more control over their compensation. Is it because they receive some kind of a commission, or how is the compensation structure different?
So the compensation structure is a profit-sharing system, and so for each portion of profit that an employee manages, they take a direct cut from the profit. And so based on how many clients they're managing or how many accounts they're managing at any given time, they're able to directly see that return in their paycheck with the amount of profit that they're managing. So if they end up managing more profit, then they'll see that directly month over month within their check. And if they want to scale back, depending on what's going on in their life or whatever, whatever makes them the most happy and drives their satisfaction within the company. If they want to scale back, they have the ability to do that too. And then they'll see that directly reflected in the profit sharing that they're provided.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's really interesting. I actually heard a rumor, and if it's not something to talk about, we don't have to go there, but I heard a rumor that sometimes, like headhunters will call Elite SEM employees because I'm sure they're highly sought after, and that there's maybe some kind of I don't know if it's like a celebration or like a thumbs up or something if you get the call and you choose to stay. Is that a thing, or am I misunderstanding maybe?
No, it is a thing. Something that Ben created right from the beginning was a poaching program.
Okay.
So if you received an email from a headhunter or a recruiter, it was encouraged that you share that information and that it wasn't secretive. And every time that you were poached or attempted to be poached, you would receive a bottle of wine. And so this wine bottle poaching program, employees have become extremely proud of it, of how many wine bottles that they can have on display at their desk or whatever it might be. And then each year we do a most poachable award. The person that has the most attempts to be poached gets a trip to Napa to go to the wine country. So it's been a fun program. It's a way to open up that transparency, that it's not a secret thing that headhunters are reaching out. Instead, it's celebrated that we're so highly sought after as talent that it's something that everybody can kind of share in and enjoy, that give themselves a pat on the back that each person at Elite is so sought after.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I've really never heard of anything like that. So that's
yeah, it's very unique.
That's awesome. And it kind of leads me into my next thought, which is sort of company culture. I mean, in general, a lot of times when we decide to leave our job, it's because we're unhappy. And we're often unhappy because there's something not going right at work. And it's very often around culture issues. And you guys have such a great culture in general. I mean, what do you think that Elite SEM is doing to foster such a positive, productive culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that from day one, Elite SEM has been people first. And that really is shown through our leadership team and through all of the decisions that we make. And any time that a decision is considered, the first thing that we consider is the impact to our people. How is it going to impact their happiness? Not just the bottom line. And also, I think that something that's very important is that we consider ourselves a no-blame culture. I think this is very key. That mistakes are encouraged. I think you could talk to any employee, and they'd be able to tell you a story of a time they made a mistake, and they were really terrified, that they were going to lose their job or that their career was over, totally mortified that they had made a terrible mistake. And then they're able to tell you how they weren't punished. Instead, they learned and grew from those mistakes. And that's just ingrained in our culture, that it's okay to make mistakes, and that's what really actually drives growth and innovation. And I think that a lot of cultures that suffer feel like there has to be a punishment if you make a mistake or if you take a risk. And that's really not the case at Elite.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And I'm wondering, you mentioned like happiness and making, putting employees first. Do you feel like, aside from just the normal compensation, are there any special perks or anything extra that, employees really value that are provided that might be different than another company?
Yeah, definitely. So there are a few things that we've kept up from day one. One of those is free lunch for every employee, every day, free snacks, unlimited vacation, unlimited sick time, the ability to work from home, and that's actually true, and that you're able to do that. There's a physical fitness stipend, 100% paid maternity leave for 16 weeks, which is really unheard of in the U.S., and that we've recently added 529 college savings plans for new parents to set aside money for their children's college. We have an annual retreat that the entire company comes together in one centralized location to learn and grow and to bond. So we try to offer a variety of benefits so that no matter what stage an employee is in their lives, whether it's saving for their kids' college or it's about free lunch because they're a recent grad and they could use that extra support. We have a variety of those things that allow each employee to take advantage of it and kind of grow with the company wherever they're at.
Yeah, I like that. And you mentioned that, employees can work from home and that kind of thing. And we talked at the beginning about how a lot of the employees that I worked with in 2007 are still there. And it's really interesting because when I worked with Elite, everyone was based in New York. And I don't think there were any other locations. And as the years have gone by, the folks that I've worked with have been promoted to be directors and vice presidents, and they have moved to other cities in the U.S. and opened other offices, which I find really interesting and very cool. I mean, how did that kind of come together? How many offices, I guess, are there now? Maybe that's a good place to start.
Definitely. There are 7 offices, 6 in the U.S. and 1 in Canada. And I think that this really goes back to the core purpose of Elite, which is great lives for great people, and that some of the original employees of Elite originally were in New York City and eventually expressed that they wanted to either return from where they were from originally or settle down somewhere outside of New York. And they were provided with that opportunity to move back to the places that they were originally from and able to build offices there and grow Elite in other locations. So that freedom was provided to them, and it's only helped strengthen Elite that we now have offices throughout the country that all have their own unique and strong presence. And it also provided those employees with great leadership opportunities and the ability to be promoted to directors or vice presidents as they were able to demonstrate those leadership qualities and show that we could grow our business regardless of geography.
Right. I think the folks that I worked with when I was there were Abby, Zach, and Mark. That's kind of who I worked with. And I think they have each moved to totally different states, if I recall. And Abby, I think, went back to her hometown. And I think that may be true with Zach. I'm not sure. But it's so great because they've been able to stay there, but go to a place that they love and grow themselves professionally and grow a new team. And I mean, I really can't say that for basically any other company. So I think it's just such a good example. I'm curious, sort of based on your own experience, if we are an employee who is trying to get an internal promotion like that within our own company and we're struggling, do you have any suggestions for us on how to move up within our existing organization?
Yeah, so something that I coach our employees on, and I often go back to the examples of Abby and Zach as well, who both did move back to their hometowns, is that no one handed Abby or Zach these opportunities, but Abby and Zach went after those opportunities themselves. And I think that can be accomplished by performing the role that you hope to be in next is very key. That exhibiting leadership qualities before you're promoted to be a leader is very important. Show that you're able to support the team and direct the team and mentor the team, and then the promotion will follow. You can kind of tell by the employees that end up promoted that they've taken on extra opportunities. They've gone above and beyond what was part of their job description and demonstrated those qualities. And whether that be moving into a management role or whether that be moving into another role that never existed before, I would say that 9 times out of 10 it's because they were passionate about it and they worked for it and viewed themselves as the owner of their own destiny. They didn't sit and wait and hope that the company would hand it to them. And I think that would be true for a lot of organizations. That's the best way you can stand out and be noticed and be seen and that promotion for yourself, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. Very often what seems to make the difference is it's the person who shows the initiative. It's not necessarily who has the highest test scores or the highest grades from college or something. It's the person who's the most interested in that position and who's willing to put in the work, on their own without, like you said, without waiting for someone else to give it to you. So that's a really good suggestion. Well, So I'm curious, obviously Elite SEM can't hire everyone. So, but
Definitely.
yeah, but if so, like say that we're listening and we're thinking to ourselves, wow, this culture sounds amazing. I wish I could find a company with a culture like that, or at least a better culture than where I work today. And we're out there looking for a job and we're interviewing. What kinds of things do you think that we should be on the lookout for when it comes to finding a better company culture?
Sure. I think that looking into what the company's values are is probably the most key thing that a job seeker could be looking at. Really probe and ask that company what their values are and how they're lived in the workplace day to day. For Elite, that means our core values of love what you do. We're looking for passionate people who are passionate about the work. Strive for greatness is another one of our core values. So we're looking for people who are self-starters who go above and beyond. So asking about those values and kind of doing that reverse interview of how do they demonstrate those things and do they mean something to the company. Ask the company how they learn from their mistakes, how the company is transparent, and also asking about leadership and the management style. I think that has a large influence on whether the company has a good culture, is if the leadership team is living out those core values, if the leadership team is involved in the day-to-day. Those are some things I think that are really telling about whether or not that company is a great place to work and whether you're going to feel like you're valued within that space.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I wonder, too, though, when we go in for job interviews, sometimes the company, the people we talk to within the company, they pretend like they love being there because they're trying really hard to, like, fill the position. Or they feel like they can't really speak freely, about things. I mean, are there any sort of indicators like, I don't know, tenure or something of employees that would help us to sort of get a sense, something that's measurable in some way?
Yeah, I think tenure would be a big one. That if a company is a great place to work, you'll be able to tell by the amount of people that are sticking around, right? So I think that if you were to look at LinkedIn and look at the employees that are at that company, you'll be able to see very quickly if the tenure is more like 6 or 9 months or if it's 10 years. And comparing that difference, you'll be able to tell whether or not people are happy with sticking around. I think also in an interview setting, you can tell if the answers feel a little bit rehearsed or that everybody's kind of giving you the same story,
Mm-hmm.
then that might be a little bit of a red flag that everybody is trying to sell you more than being genuine about what the company is really like. I would say that in the Elite's interview process that we try to be as transparent as possible and that you're going to get a little bit of a different take from each person about what makes Elite special to them. And you're not going to hear those canned same answers that feel like you're being sold because we want to land a candidate. We're more concerned about finding the right person and the right fit than selling them on trying to come to work for us.
That's true. And it's interesting when you are being sold in an interview, you can sometimes tell because the person who's interviewing you is talking a lot and you're just kind of sitting there thinking, gosh, don't they want to know about my resume and my background? But
exactly.
Yeah. But like in the case of Elite, you don't have to sell people. They want to come and work for you. So you can really have like an honest dialogue until you find that right candidate. So that makes
Definitely
a lot of sense. Yeah. So as we're going through this process, on the flip side, what should we look out for to avoid in a company? Because that's honestly, when I talk to job seekers, this is probably their number one fear, is they're going from a company that's a bad experience now, and they're so afraid of reproducing that bad experience somewhere else. So what should we avoid?
Yeah, I think that it would kind of be the opposite of what you would look for. Is that a red flag I can think of is if the company really lacks any statement about their values, that would be a huge red flag for me. If they don't really have a core purpose or mission that's really driving them, then I would be very concerned that the company is more concerned about the bottom line than about any of these values that would probably value their people. So if they lack any kind of statement about their people and how people are the core part of their success, that would be something I would probably run away from. I would assume that company treats people more like cogs in the wheel. No one wants to feel like a number. And if the way that they present their business case lacks that human element, then I would definitely stay away.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like one nice thing too with Elite is that I'm not sure how big Elite is now, but it's a reasonably small company, I believe. I mean, how many folks do you guys have now?
So we're at 155 people right now.
Holy cow! So that's huge compared to what I remember.
Yeah, we're still growing very rapidly. I have been with Elite almost 2 years now, and I was, I believe, the 90th employee. So we're growing about 25% year over year, and that's probably one of the most amazing things about Elite is that we've been able to sustain what it is that's made it so great despite the rapid growth.
You know, I think I have to really think back. I believe that when I was working with Elite, the size of the company was maybe about 6 people. So if that
we've
says
definitely
anything.
grown since then.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm curious, you know, when I was working with them, Elite was just doing I believe just mostly like pay-per-click on like Google AdWords and just different, you know, search engine marketing. But I believe that Elite has expanded quite a bit and covers a lot of other areas now. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. So the way that we like to view it now is that we were founded on paid search, but that we've grown into full-service digital marketing. And so we also do SEO, search engine optimization, as well as performance display, paid social campaigns, CRO, analytics team has recently joined us in the last year. So definitely have expanded, including Google Shopping and Feed is one of our other divisions as well. So we really view ourselves as a full-service digital marketing agency at this point that can provide all of the different services that our clients are asking for.
So I'm curious, within the company, is every individual that works there, that works with clients, are they expected to know all the different parts of digital marketing, or do they typically specialize in sort of one area?
We believe in a specialist model, and so each division has their own specialty.
Interesting.
But we are building out an integrated media team that can help bridge those silos so that we can provide cohesive expertise. If a client is working with us on multiple services, then they can feel confident that they've got an expert in each of the different kinds of services, but that our integrated media team can kind of bridge the gap and make sure that the strategy for their account is cohesive.
Interesting. That's very interesting. And I don't know if you would know this, but because it would have probably happened so long ago, but I'm curious if the company evolving into all these different parts of digital marketing, if it had anything to do with the interests of the employees who were working there, like if somebody really had learned a lot about SEO and kind of wanted to move in that direction, or if I just wonder how it kind of evolved to that point.
Yeah, I think that it was a little bit of a hybrid. One is that there are employees that wanted to expand their horizons, and also that we have really great relationships with our clients. And so if a client is asking for an additional service, we want to be able to meet their needs in the best way that we can. And so if they're asking for 2 or 3 different services, we want to make sure that we can provide them with that rather than them having to go somewhere else for that. So I'd say it was a combination of employees expressing that they wanted to get involved in those areas and clients asking if we could provide it.
That makes a lot of sense. And you're right. They do have such a good relationship. I think, at least from the client side for me, and I'm not trying to do a total pitch, obviously, but I mean, we're talking about what makes a place good to work for and work with. I remember as a client, Elite just being really straightforward with me and also just very helpful. So whereas maybe another agency, I would kind of second guess their decisions or not really feel like I was an equal partner at the table, you know, I really did feel that way with Elite. And interestingly, I stopped working with Elite in 2011, so almost 6 years ago now. And I still have stayed in touch with folks there. And if I were ever back in the digital space, they'd probably be the first ones that I would call. So I think you're absolutely right. And that goes back to culture too, because there's a culture that you can be sort of open and honest and straightforward, and I don't see that everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's all interrelated, that if our employees are happy and engaged and feel valued, then they in turn can translate that to their clients, that we're kind of modeling that transparency and honesty and collaboration within our team. Mm-hmm. And I think clients can feel that. I think that when you sign up to work with an agency, you can tell if the team that you're working with is cohesive or not. Mm-hmm. And so we provide that really great environment to be able to deliver that cohesion and collaboration and move that to our clients, so that our clients really do feel like they're an extension of us rather than a separate service. We really do like to view each client as partnering with them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, so if we're listening today and we're thinking, gosh, this sounds great, I really want to go work for this place, what kinds of things, I mean, I'm sure you get a ton of applications, especially after all these awards that you've received. What sorts of things make a candidate stand out to you?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I often look for when I'm talking to a candidate. One of the first things I'm looking for is someone that has a true passion for the industry. I know that sounds a lot like lip service, but love what you do is one of our core values, and so we want to make sure that the people that come to work for us truly have a passion for the work and really are excited about it. And so we try to ask questions that can really get to the core of that, about what makes them excited to come to work each day, what makes them, what are they passionate about within paid search or within paid social or whatever it might be. And looking for candidates that can demonstrate to us that they're passionate to the extent that they want to continue to learn as well. Part of our core values is the education piece. And so if a candidate can show me that they've been proactive in how they're learning and growing and that that's a constant evolution for them, that definitely sticks out for me. Probably one of the last things I look for as well is that even though we have moved past the startup phase, we still very strongly maintain that startup mentality. So I'm usually looking for candidates that are willing to roll up their sleeves and really dig into the work. Candidates that recognize that not every process is going to be perfect, but that they're going to have the power to create and be part of the solution. That opportunity is really exciting for the right person.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, so what about, I talk to people very often who are interested to get into digital marketing, but maybe they're new, maybe they're right out of college or they're mid-career, but they want to switch. Would you ever consider someone that's new to the digital space, or do you generally look for people who already have this pre-existing experience?
Definitely. No, we have periodic intern classes that come in for each of our different divisions. And that's a great way to get started, is that we do take both new grads and candidates that are looking to make a career switch into our internship. That gives them a chance to get their feet wet, really go through kind of a boot camp style of learning digital marketing and finding out if this is a good fit for them. And then at the end of that internship, if it's a good fit, then they're made an offer for permanent employment. So I think that you'd really have to really want that. Like I said, it's an intensive kind of 90-day boot camp, and so it really helps us see too who's really passionate about it or who really wants this opportunity versus those who may not be the right fit for the kind of pace that agency life has.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Wow, that's cool. I don't think I realized that. Is there information on the Elite SEM website about the internship program?
Yes, there is. So if you go to our careers page on our website, you'll periodically see when we have internships posted.
Oh, cool.
Like I mentioned, there's intern classes for all of our divisions. So depending on the size of the division, we could be looking for anywhere from 1 to 10 interns at any given time.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, so I'm curious, given that you're dealing with people who are coming from the digital space, have you ever seen unusual applications, like somebody who sent in a video or something that was a little unconventional?
Yeah, we have. I think that those types of applications definitely stand out. I love to see when candidates have gotten creative and will send us a video or a recording or samples of their work, or you can tell if they've really put the effort into their resume and it's been designed and crafted very well. As the HR director, I can attest that those applicants typically do stand out and get our attention, more so than just a standard typical resume.
Okay, that's good to know, because I think sometimes people are sort of on the fence about, well, does it make me look better? Are they going to kind of judge me or think it's weird, or, that kind of thing?
No, I think it's great. I think it gives us a window into the candidate a little early on, and our interview process is very lengthy and requires each candidate to perform a skills test and give a presentation anyway. So if we can gauge some of those presentation skills or quality of work from the front end, then that, I think, is all the better for that candidate.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. Well, I mean, I know that you must see a ton of applications. Are there any things that sort of stick out as the mistakes that people make? Like, are there any things that if you saw, I don't know, maybe a spelling error or something, you'd think, oh, I don't want to consider this person, or?
I would say that it's sometimes evident if someone hasn't put very much effort into their application, where they either have used the same cover letter and forgot to update what company they were applying for, or what job they were applying for. Also, the spelling errors or grammatical errors and things like that do stick out to us. We are looking for people who have a good attention to detail,
right,
and who have put some thought and effort into the application. And I know as a candidate, sometimes it is difficult to catch those things as you're trying to apply for many jobs at once. But that would be some advice I would give, is to kind of triple check that, because that is a red flag for us, that they must not know who we are, or they must not care that much about this application if they've put the wrong company name or the wrong position. That typically is a red flag for me. One other thing I'd mention is that if an applicant applies, if we have 9 jobs posted and they apply to all 9 jobs, then I also am kind of led to assume that they're not that passionate about one particular area, or they're not necessarily paying attention to what they're applying for, because there's no one that's going to be an expert in all 9 of those, specialties. So those are probably a few things that give us a little bit of a pause and wonder whether that candidate's really serious about coming to work for us.
I could see that. Well, as I mentioned, the podcast today is not meant to be a plug for Elite SEM, but they are certainly a great example of a fantastic company to work for. And if we're listening today and we'd like to go and learn more about Elite SEM and possibly apply for a job with you, where should we go?
So you can go to the careers page on elitesem.com. You can also send us an email at recruiting@elitesem.com, or you're welcome to find any of us from the Human Resources team on LinkedIn and connect with us there. Something else I would encourage as well is that many of our employees speak at digital marketing events. That would be a great way to connect with us. That if you're able to attend a summit or an event, come find us there and meet with us in person. That's been a way for us to meet really great candidates and see you face to face, which is a great way, I think, for any company to really get in the door, is that we're more likely to consider you if we've met you and gotten to know you a little bit than seeing your resume on paper.
Oh, I totally agree, and I really appreciate that feedback. So often people are afraid they're going to come across as creepy if they seek you out on LinkedIn or find you somewhere. So that is such good advice.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm never creeped out if someone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn. I think it just shows that they've done their research and they're taking initiative.
I totally agree. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes today, and this has really been great.
Yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and thanks to those of you who sent me questions. You can send me your questions to Angela@CopelandCoaching.com. You can also send me questions via Twitter. I'm at Copeland Coach, and on Facebook, I am Copeland Coaching. Don't forget to help me out. Please subscribe on iTunes and leave me a review.
Thank you for listening to the Copeland Coaching Podcast today with your host, Angela Copeland. Tune in next time to get more great tips on turning your job search into a slam dunk.